The glass of wine shattered on the marble floor, the sharp echo slicing through the air like the loneliness breaking inside the man standing in the center of the penthouse. Ethan Cole, 37 years old, the youngest billionaire in California, stood still, watching the dark red liquid spread at his feet. The light from the setting sun filtered through the massive windows, painting his face in the colors of twilight and emptiness. Outside, Los Angeles glittered as always, lavish, vibrant, brimming with ambition. But to Ethan, it was nothing more than a glamorous disguise hiding tired souls. He had everything a man could dream of: a multi-billion-dollar medical empire, a fleet of luxury cars lined up in the basement, praises, handshakes, admiration. Yet every night he sat alone, listening to the ticking of the clock like a knife slicing into his chest. "Money can't buy love," he murmured, his deep voice dry and hollow. The words echoed across the vast room until even the sound seemed lost. On the walls hung framed magazine covers, certificates, and awards, all celebrating a genius, a symbol of American success. But no one knew that Ethan Cole had never been truly loved. The women who came into his life, beautiful, charming, graceful, never saw him through his eyes, only through the digits in his bank account. He remembered candlelit dinners, the practiced smiles, the empty I love yous that felt as hollow as an emptied glass. To Ethan, love had become the most expensive luxury of all. The doorbell rang. Andrew Reed, his best friend and personal lawyer, walked in with a familiar smile. "Still sitting here alone, huh?" Ethan gave a faint smile. "Who else is there?" Andrew set a stack of files on the table, glanced at the shattered glass, then back at Ethan. "You're opening the Cole Memorial Hospital soon, right? The media is going to explode when this project launches." "Yes," Ethan replied, his eyes distant. "It'll be the most advanced hospital on the West Coast, built to serve the community. But I don't just want to cut a ribbon and pose for photos. I want to understand people truly." Andrew raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" Ethan turned, the light outlining his sharp, resolute face. "I'm going to work there, not as the owner, but as an ordinary man." Andrew froze. "Do what exactly?" Ethan spoke each word clearly. "I'll be a janitor." Silence filled the room. The wind outside howled softly through the open window, brushing against the white curtains, swaying in the breeze. "Ethan, are you out of your mind? You're one of Forbes' top 20 in the world, and you want to hold a mop?" Ethan sat down, his tone calm but firm. "I want to see this world through the eyes of those who are ignored. I want to know who's truly kind when they don't know who I am. If real love exists, I have to find it where money can't reach." Andrew looked at him, his expression softening. He knew Ethan wasn't joking. The loneliness in those eyes couldn't be faked. "All right," Andrew sighed. "Whatever you decide, I'll help. But what if someone finds out?" "No one can know," Ethan said firmly. "You'll just announce that I'm overseas on business. I'll submit my application under another name." Andrew let out a low laugh, half surprised, half impressed. "Fine then, James Miller. Welcome to the world of ordinary people." 2 weeks later, in a conference room filled with flashing cameras, reporters jostled for photos. Cole Memorial Hospital, a newly built 7-story medical center in Beverly Hills, gleamed under the morning sun. It was the pride of the city, a monument to Ethan's vision. But while the press celebrated his name, Ethan himself was standing quietly in the hospital's HR office, holding a job application under his new identity: James Miller, 35 years old, high school education, occupation, janitor. The hiring officer eyed him curiously. "Are you sure you want this job? The pay is only $14 an hour." "I'm sure," James said calmly. "Have you worked anywhere before?" "At a senior care center," he replied. "Half true." The woman nodded and stamped the paper. "You're hired. Report tomorrow to collect your uniform." "Congratulations, Mr. Miller." James stepped outside, looking up at the gleaming building reflected in the glass facade. He took a deep breath and, for the first time in a long while, smiled. Starting tomorrow, Ethan Cole would disappear. Only James, an ordinary cleaner among hundreds of hospital workers, would remain. He had no idea that this journey would change his life forever, not only leading him to true love, but also exposing the hidden faces behind the white coats. As the wind swept through the hospital corridor, James whispered to himself, "This isn't just an experiment. It's my chance to find the heart I lost in a world full of masks." Colorful confetti burst through the air as a crowd gathered in front of the new 7-story glass building, Cole Memorial Hospital, the latest pride of Los Angeles. The morning sunlight glimmered against the silver letters that read, "Where Healing Meets Humanity." On stage, Andrew Reed, Ethan's lawyer and longtime friend, spoke on behalf of the chairman. Mr. Ethan Cole is currently abroad on business, but he believes each of you will carry both heart and professionalism to make this place a symbol of compassion. Applause roared through the plaza. The atmosphere was electric. Young doctors stood tall with pride. Nurses adjusted their hair. Staff took cheerful selfies. No one noticed the quiet man standing at the back, wearing a simple gray uniform, head bowed in silence. That man was James Miller, the alias Ethan Cole had chosen for his experiment to find out what genuine humanity looked like. After the ceremony, everyone was assigned to their departments. White coats filled the sparkling corridors, mingling with the sound of footsteps and laughter. In a corner of the maintenance wing, Henry Brooks, a veteran janitor, spotted James awkwardly holding a mop. "You're new here?" he asked. "Yes, sir. I'm James." "Welcome to the ground floor of the hospital." Henry chuckled. "Here, people will walk over the floors you clean every day without ever looking down. But don't let that make you forget. You're keeping this place clean, both literally and morally." James smiled. "I'll remember that." Later, as he mopped near the administration area, a sharp female voice cut through the air. "Hey, you! Make sure you clean that properly. The floor still has streaks." The speaker was Monica Lewis, the head nurse, tall, confident, and far too self-assured. "I'm sorry, ma'am," James said quietly. "Ma'am?" she scoffed. "It's head nurse Lewis. Get it right." She walked off, her high heels clicking across the freshly mopped floor, leaving muddy marks behind. The nurses trailing behind her giggled. "Wow, first day and already getting scolded. He probably doesn't even know how to wring a mop." James said nothing. He didn't feel anger, only pity. At lunchtime, the staff cafeteria was divided into two sides. On the right, white coats and bright laughter. On the left, gray, brown, and black uniforms, security, janitors, technicians. James sat with Henry, quietly eating his sandwich as he observed. From across the room, Monica's voice carried loud and clear. "I still don't understand why they let cleaning staff eat in the same room. The smell of bleach is unbearable." The others laughed. Henry sighed. "We're the floor they walk on every day. But one day, you'll see, it's the floor that keeps them from falling." James nodded slowly. "Maybe I came here at the right time." That afternoon, Dr. Kelvin Harper, a young doctor known for his arrogance, walked through the hallway. He nearly slipped on the wet floor and turned sharply. "Are you blind? Didn't you see to put up a caution sign?" "I'm sorry. I'll do it right away," James replied, head bowed. "Next time, use your brain, not just your hands." The doctor stormed off, leaving Henry shaking his head. "You see, around here, titles matter more than character." James watched him go, his chest heavy. He realized this experiment was not just about finding kindness. It was also a mirror reflecting the uncomfortable truth of human nature. Late at night, when the corridors grew quiet, James mopped the fifth-floor hallway alone. The yellow light reflected his image on the glass wall. He was no longer Ethan Cole, the powerful billionaire, just a man searching for answers within himself. He texted Andrew, "You were right. In a place built to save lives, I've found too many cold hearts." Andrew replied, "Be patient, Ethan. Goodness usually hides where few people look." James read the message and smiled faintly. He didn't know that just one day later, the person who would make him believe in that goodness again was already on her way to the hospital, with a job application in her hands. The autumn morning in California was crisp and clear. Early sunlight streamed through the small window of an old apartment where 26-year-old Emily Parker was gently waking her little daughter. "Time to get up, Grace. Mommy has a job interview today." The sleepy girl rubbed her eyes and smiled. "You're going to be a nurse, Mommy?" "I hope so, sweetheart." At the table, Emily's father, Walter, quickly wrapped a sandwich and placed a hand on her shoulder. "Don't worry, Emily. No matter what happens, Grace and I will always believe in you." Emily smiled, though unease stirred quietly in her chest. This was her last chance to secure a steady job after months of unemployment. On the crowded bus, Emily checked her watch, 8:45 a.m. She tried to stay calm, but when she reached the gates of Cole Memorial Hospital, the clock already read 9:10. The receptionist looked up with weary eyes. "Nurse interview?" "I'm sorry, the position's already been filled." "What?" Emily froze. "I was only a few minutes late. I'm sorry." The words cut like a knife. She stepped outside, sat on the cold stone steps, and her vision blurred with tears. "What will I tell my father?" A gentle, raspy voice broke the silence. "Are you all right, miss?" Emily looked up and saw an elderly man in a janitor's uniform holding a broom. "I was just a little late, and now the job's gone." The old man gave a kind smile. "No one should judge you for being a few minutes late. They're actually looking for more cleaning staff here. If you really want to work, I can put in a word." Emily hesitated. "A janitor?" "Every job has value, as long as it's honest." His words brought tears to her eyes. A moment later, she stood up and walked back to the hiring desk. "I'd like to apply for a cleaning position," she said firmly. The recruiter looked surprised, but handed her the form anyway. That afternoon, Emily officially put on the gray uniform and entered the cleaning department. She met James Miller, a man in his 30s, quiet, kind, with gentle eyes, mopping the hallway. "You're new here?" he asked. "Yes, I'm Emily." "Welcome to the team," he said with a soft smile. She smiled back, still caught between shame and relief. "At least I have a job." James watched her walk away, noticing something in her, a strength mingled with sadness, something he hadn't seen in anyone for a long time, not since he had hidden behind the mask of James Miller. That night, Emily opened the door to her small apartment and wrapped her daughter in a hug. "Mommy got a job, Grace." "Really? You're a nurse again?" The little girl beamed. Emily smiled faintly. "Not yet. Mommy's just cleaning for now. But maybe one day I'll wear the white coat again." Walter looked up from his chair, his eyes warm with pride. "Any job is worthy, as long as you keep moving forward." Emily nodded. She knew she was beginning a new journey, one that might have been below her dreams, but could lead her to something far greater. Meanwhile, across town in a high-rise apartment, Ethan Cole, now living under the name James Miller, opened a personnel file on his computer. The words on the screen read, "Emily Parker, nursing graduate, single mother, strong work ethic." Leaning back in his chair, he smiled quietly to himself. "Maybe," he whispered, "I've finally met someone real in a world full of masks." Early morning sunlight streamed through the glass windows of Cole Memorial Hospital, casting golden streaks across the white tile floor. Emily began her shift with a mop in hand, thin gloves on her fingers, and a quiet smile on her lips. She didn't know that today would be the first day she learned how to stay strong amid humiliation. Head nurse Monica Lewis stepped out of the conference room, her gaze sharp and cold. "You there!" she snapped. "The floor isn't dry, and you let a patient walk through?" Emily lowered her head. "I'm sorry. I'll clean it again right away." Monica smirked. "Make sure you do it properly. This is a premium hospital, not a cheap motel." Behind her, two young nurses, Sophie and Nina, giggled. "That's the one who failed the interview last week. Now she's cleaning floors. Guess some people can't bounce back." Emily said nothing. Her silence calm but steady, as she moved the mop, stroke by deliberate stroke. During lunch, the cafeteria was divided clearly in two. One side for doctors and nurses, the other for those wearing gray. Emily sat with Henry Brooks and a few other janitors. From the main table in the center, Monica laughed loudly. "I hope they don't sit too close. I can't eat with that bleach smell around." Henry clenched his fist, ready to respond, but Emily gently shook her head. "Let them talk," she said softly. "One day, they'll understand that work doesn't make people small. Arrogance does." In the corner, James listened to every word. His expression darkened. He wanted to speak up, but held back. He was here to observe, not to judge. That afternoon, Dr. Kelvin Harper walked past the VIP ward restroom. "Hey!" he barked. "Who told you to clean in this area? If patients see you here, they'll think this hospital lacks professionalism." James replied evenly, "I'm following the assignment given to me." Kelvin lifted his chin. "Next time, report first. I don't want to see people like you wandering around here." He walked away, leaving James standing still. A man who heals the body, James thought, yet forgets how to heal the soul. Late in the afternoon, Emily received a panicked phone call from her neighbor. "Grace has a high fever and keeps vomiting. I don't know what to do." Emily ripped off her gloves and rushed to the supervisor's office. Monica blocked her path. "Where do you think you're going in the middle of your shift?" "My daughter is very sick," Emily pleaded. "Please, I just need an hour to check on her." "No," Monica said curtly. "Everyone has personal matters. Leaving during work hours violates the rules." Emily's voice trembled. "Just 1 hour, please." "No exceptions," Monica replied coldly. Emily unpinned her name tag and placed it on the desk. "If I have to choose between my job and my daughter, I choose my daughter." Then she ran out, leaving Monica speechless. Inside the dim apartment, Grace lay unconscious, her skin burning hot, her lips dry. "I'm here, baby," Emily whispered, her voice breaking. Wrapping her daughter in a blanket, she ran back to the hospital, the same place she had just been dismissed from. "Please, my child has a high fever," she cried at the reception desk. Monica looked at her as though she were a stranger. "Pay the admission fee first. I'll pay later. I work here." "This isn't a charity," Monica replied coldly. Emily fell to her knees, holding her daughter tightly as tears streamed down her face. From across the lobby, Henry and James witnessed everything. James stepped forward, his voice firm. "She's an employee here. How could you deny treatment to a child?" Monica turned sharply. "You're just a janitor. Stay out of this." But before she could finish, a deep voice cut through the air. "Get that child to the emergency room, now!" Dr. Nathan Carter appeared, his white coat fluttering in the cool draft of the air vents. "She works here, doesn't she? I'll take responsibility. Move!" The medical team hurriedly lifted Grace onto a stretcher and rushed her down the corridor. The emergency room doors swung shut as the red light above flickered on. Emily collapsed onto a chair, trembling. Henry rested a comforting hand on her shoulder. James stood nearby, his eyes filled not just with sympathy, but with profound respect. He realized that this woman wasn't just cleaning hospital floors. She was quietly cleansing the arrogance that had taken root in so many hearts. And for the first time in years, Ethan Cole, beneath the name James Miller, felt his own heart truly move. The red emergency authorized personnel. Only light stayed on for more than half an hour. Emily sat in the hallway, her hands clasped tightly together, trembling, her tears dried on her cheeks. Every passing second felt like an eternity. At last, the door opened. Dr. Nathan Carter stepped out, pulling down his mask, a gentle smile forming on his lips. "The little girl's fever has gone down," he said. "We've given her fluids and medication. She just needs to be monitored for a few more hours." Emily broke down, covering her mouth to stifle her sobs. "Thank you, doctor, thank you so much." Nathan smiled softly. "Just call me Nathan. And please, next time there's an emergency, don't wait. Some of us still remember why we chose this profession." Behind him, James watched the scene in silence. Relief mixed with sorrow rose within him. Part of him was thankful the child was safe, but another part ached at the truth that lay bare before him. Inside, this place called a hospital of compassion, true compassion survived in only a few hearts. When Grace was moved to the recovery room, Emily sat by her bedside, her hand wrapped around her daughter's tiny fingers. "You'll be all right, Grace," she whispered. "I promise." James stood by the glass window, looking in, his heart sinking. He couldn't remember the last time he'd seen a mother cry out of pure love, not out of self-interest. Henry walked up beside him and said quietly, "See that? The girl has a light no one can extinguish." James nodded slowly, his gaze deep. "Yes, and that light reminds me. The world still has hope." The next morning, when Grace woke, Emily smiled through her tears. "Good morning, my little angel." "I feel better now, Mommy," the girl whispered, her eyes still heavy with fatigue. "Yes, thanks to kind people." "Did Mr. James help too?" Emily nodded, glancing toward the door. James was standing there with a gentle smile, holding a warm food container. "I brought some porridge," he said. "You both need to eat something." Emily's voice quivered with emotion. "You didn't have to." "I didn't have to," he interrupted softly. "I wanted to." The simple words felt like sunlight breaking through morning fog. Behind him, Henry teased, "Careful, James. People might think you've taken a special interest in her." James laughed, but his eyes never left Emily. Later that afternoon, when her shift ended, Emily found James in the break room cleaning equipment. "I owe you a thank you," she said quietly. "You don't owe me anything. I just did what anyone should have done." "Not everyone would," she replied in a low, steady voice. "I've met people who turned away when I needed help. You didn't." James looked at her for a long moment, then asked, "Why do you stay here after everything they've done to you?" Emily gave a sad smile. "Because I need the job. But more than that, I want my daughter to see that her mother never gave up, no matter how much others looked down on her." Her words pierced through him like a blade. He saw himself, a man who had once given up on feeling, hiding behind wealth and power, only to lose his soul along the way. "You know," he said softly, his voice rough with honesty, "you make me think about what truly matters." Emily tilted her head slightly. "What do you mean? That some people make you want to become a better version of yourself?" Silence fell between them. Their eyes met, simple, quiet, but carrying the weight of something new being born. That night, the hospital slowly fell into stillness. The yellow light reflected on the polished glass, showing James's reflection as he mopped the floor. With every stroke, he saw not the billionaire Ethan Cole, but a man relearning how to be human. His phone rang. It was Andrew. "Ethan, I heard about the woman who was denied help for her child. What do you think?" "I think," Ethan said, "we built the hospital right. But we forgot to build people right. What will you do now? I'll stay longer. I want to see what happens when a small light like Emily keeps shining in the darkness." He ended the call and looked up. Through the clear glass, he saw Emily stepping out of the patient room, carrying Grace asleep on her shoulder. Her figure was fragile, yet firm, every step soft but strong. In that moment, James finally understood. It wasn't because she was beautiful, but because she was real. Not because she was strong, but because she dared to be weak and still move forward. He bent down, picked up a fallen cleaning cloth, and smiled faintly. A calm, quiet smile, deeper than anything he had felt before. And for the first time since hiding behind the name James Miller, Ethan Cole knew his journey to find true love had just begun. Dawn spilled through the hospital windows, coating everything in a soft golden hue. Emily stepped into her morning shift, her face still showing traces of fatigue after a sleepless night beside her daughter. Yet her smile remained gentle and calm, as if she had learned how to find peace in the middle of chaos. James was mopping the third-floor hallway when he saw her. He stopped and called softly, "How's Grace?" "Much better. She's been smiling all morning." "Good," he said, his eyes warm. "You should rest too. You look tired." "No," she replied. "Working helps me forget the fear." They shared a brief glance, then both laughed quietly, a small, honest laugh in a place heavy with pressure. During lunch break, as staff gathered in the cafeteria, Emily walked over to where James and Henry were sitting, holding a small foil-wrapped container. "I made some food. Please, take it." Henry's eyes widened. "Home cooked?" "Yes," she smiled. "Just fried rice, eggs, and some vegetables." "Heavens, it's been ages since I've smelled real food," Henry said, laughing. James opened the container, and a gentle aroma filled the air. He looked up at Emily and said softly, "You didn't have to do this." "It's not about having to," she replied. "I wanted to thank you, Henry, and Dr. Nathan for being there when no one else did." A strange warmth settled over the table. Henry grinned while eating. "You know, James, it's been a long time since I've seen you smile like that." James chuckled. "Maybe I forgot how to smile genuinely until I met her." Emily blushed and lowered her head. "Please don't say that. I only did what any decent person would do." Later that afternoon, after cleaning duties ended, James and Emily sat on a bench outside the hospital. The late sunlight painted her hair in shades of gold, making her face look even softer. "Emily," James said, "I've always wondered, do you regret leaving nursing to do this?" She smiled faintly, her eyes distant. "I never gave up, I just paused. One day, I'll wear the white coat again. For now, I just need enough to care for my daughter and my father." She looked down at her hands, rough but clean. "I'm not ashamed of mopping floors. I'd only be ashamed if my daughter thought her mother gave up." James was speechless. Her words felt like a mirror reflecting his own life. A man who once had everything but lost himself behind the masks of success. "You're strong," he said quietly. Emily laughed softly. "No, I just don't have any choice but to stand up. Life isn't always fair, but if I stop believing in good, then who will?" James gazed at her in silence, overwhelmed by something he couldn't quite define: admiration, gratitude, and fear. Fear that if he ever revealed who he truly was, the light in her eyes might disappear forever. The next morning, during their shift, Monica Lewis passed by and saw James and Emily cleaning a hallway together. "How nice," she said mockingly. "The perfect janitor duo." Emily looked up, calm and steady. "We're just doing our jobs." Monica smirked. "Don't forget who's in charge here." "I'd hate to have to remind you." She walked off, leaving behind the heavy scent of expensive perfume mixed with antiseptic. James shook his head. She doesn't realize that the most valuable things here aren't found in a wallet. Emily smiled faintly. People who have nothing to prove usually don't need to show off. Her answer made James laugh. "You sound like a philosopher?" "Not really," she said. "I've just been through enough pain to understand that sometimes the only thing left that keeps us going is believing we're still capable of kindness." That night, after his shift, James stood on the hospital rooftop as the wind brushed his face and the city lights glimmered below. He called Andrew. "Andrew, I think I've found someone different." "Different?" "She doesn't see me as rich or poor. She sees me as a person." Andrew laughed. "So your undercover search for true love is finally paying off." "I don't know," James replied slowly, "but for the first time, I don't feel alone." He ended the call and looked down at the courtyard below, where Emily was walking out, Grace asleep on her shoulder. Her shadow stretched long across the ground. Something inside him shifted, no longer curiosity or experiment, but a deep, genuine sense of respect, so real it scared him. He touched the name tag on his chest that read James Miller and whispered, "Maybe it's time I ask myself how much longer I can keep living as someone I'm not." Below, Emily looked up, and their eyes met by chance. In that brief moment, one man hiding his identity, one woman carrying her scars, neither of them knew that they were already beginning to heal each other. Monday morning. The hospital buzzed with more energy than usual. Nurses hurried through the halls, the sharp rhythm of high heels echoing against the polished floor. Emily knelt by the maternity ward wall, wiping every corner with careful precision, beads of sweat glistening on her forehead. She worked with the same quiet dedication as always, even if others saw her job as invisible. From down the corridor came a burst of laughter. Monica approached with two young nurses, Sophie and Nina, her tone dripping with sarcasm. "Look who we have here, our floor-cleaning princess," she said loudly, making sure everyone around could hear. Sophie joined in. "I heard she used to be a nurse. Guess she's better with a mop than a stethoscope now." Emily stood up, wiped her sweat, and replied softly, "At least a mop doesn't hurt anyone." Nina snickered. "You should write that on the wall. Maybe they'll give you an award." They walked off, leaving behind the scent of perfume and bitterness. A few steps away, James stood holding a mop bucket. He had heard every word. His eyes narrowed, but he restrained himself. The Ethan Cole who once ruled boardrooms would have reacted with power and punishment. But James Miller, the man learning how to live as his truest self, chose silence. He knew that real light doesn't need to shout. Around noon, chaos suddenly erupted in hallway 5. "Help! Her water just broke! Somebody help us!" A pregnant woman collapsed to the floor, her face pale, her breathing rapid. Her husband clutched her, panicking. Monica and her team froze, exchanging uncertain glances. "She can't deliver here," Monica said sharply. "Get her to the maternity ward. She can't walk!" the husband cried out. But no one moved. Then, in one swift motion, Emily dropped her mop and ran forward, kneeling beside the woman. "Stay calm." "I used to work in maternity care," she said quickly, Breathe deeply, slowly, that's it. The husband grabbed her arm, desperate. Please, save her! Bring me clean towels and warm water, Emily shouted. James immediately rushed off to fetch them, and Henry joined in to help. Monica stood frozen, unable to believe her eyes, as the cleaner she mocked began taking charge. Emily placed her hands gently on the woman's abdomen, her voice steady. You're doing great. I need you to push gently when I count to 3. All right? Yes, the woman gasped. 3, 2, 1! A newborn's cry pierced the air. For a moment, time stopped. Emily held the tiny, red-faced baby in her arms, carefully wrapping her in a towel as tears welled in her eyes. The mother sobbed in relief, and the father fell to his knees, clutching Emily's hands. Thank you! Thank you so much! Applause broke out among the onlookers, while several nurses turned away in shame. Moments later, Dr. Olivia Chen, the attending physician, rushed over, stunned by what she saw. You're the janitor, right? Emily nodded. Yes. But I used to be a nurse. I just did what needed to be done. Olivia's eyes swept across the room, landing on Monica and her team, who were still frozen in place. Her voice hardened. And you? Were you waiting for permission to save someone's life? Monica said nothing, a cold bead of sweat running down her spine. An hour later, the mother and baby were safely in recovery. The story of a janitor delivering a baby spread through the hospital like wildfire. In the administrative wing, doctors whispered in amazement, while Monica's team sat pale and silent. She just got lucky, Sophie muttered. Lucky the mother and baby are fine, or she'd be fired, Monica said, through clenched teeth, though her heart was still pounding. Nina asked quietly, Are you going to report her? Monica replied, We'll see. She might have created trouble for herself already. Meanwhile, in a small break room, Henry and James were recounting the event to Andrew over the hospital's internal phone line. Andrew chuckled. You didn't deliver the baby, but you witnessed the first miracle in your own hospital. That's impressive, Ethan, James replied softly. It wasn't a miracle, Andrew. It was the courage of someone who never forgot what it means to save a life. Later that afternoon, Emily returned to the staff room, washing her hands under the running tap. The sunset filtered through the window, catching the glimmer of water droplets on her wrist. James entered, holding a cup of water. You did what an entire trained team hesitated to do, he said, quietly. There wasn't time to think. If I had hesitated, 2 lives could have been lost. He looked at her, his voice low and sincere. You don't know it, but you just reminded me of something I thought I'd lost. Courage. Emily laughed softly. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's doing what's right even when you're afraid. Henry poked his head through the door, raising a thumbs up. Girl, you outshone the whole hospital today. Emily smiled humbly. I didn't outshine anyone. I just didn't want anyone else to suffer. That night, as the hospital settled into quiet, James sat alone in the management office, watching the security screens. On one of them, he saw Emily tidying up her cleaning supplies as she always did, calm, focused, without pride or pretension. He whispered to himself, This woman doesn't need the spotlight. She is the light. Down in hallway 5, where that small miracle had taken place, someone had scrawled a note with a marker and taped it to the wall. Do the right thing, even when no one is watching. James stared at the words and smiled. This time, he knew. The man who came looking for truth had finally found someone real. News spread like wildfire. By the next morning, from the HR office to the cafeteria, everyone was talking about the janitor who delivered a baby. Was she really a nurse? I heard she studied nursing, but failed her interview. Probably just luck. Don't believe everything you hear. The gossip swirled through the halls, half admiration, half mockery. And of course, No one was more bothered than Monica Lewis. In the nurses' lounge, Monica sat with her arms crossed, tapping her nails on the table. Sophie and Nina exchanged nervous glances, not daring to speak. "The whole hospital's talking about her," Monica said through gritted teeth. "A janitor being praised like a hero." "Ridiculous." Nina hesitated. "But Monica, she really did save 2 lives." Monica glared. "You think that's enough to outrank me?" "Don't forget, this hospital still has a hierarchy. She's still just a floor cleaner." She stood up, her eyes cold as steel. "When the owner comes back, I'll tell him everything. Let's see what he thinks of a cleaner playing nurse." Meanwhile, in the administrative office, Dr. Olivia Chen knocked gently before stepping in to meet Andrew Reed, the board's representative. "Mr. Reed, I need to talk to you about someone, Emily Parker." Andrew looked up with a knowing smile. "Let me guess. She's the reason the hospital's buzzing." Olivia nodded. "She's competent, Mr. Reed. When everyone else froze, she acted. I think the hospital should reconsider her position." Andrew made a note and nodded thoughtfully. "Thank you, Dr. Chen. I'll inform the chairman. I'm sure he'll be very interested." When Olivia left, Andrew opened his phone and sent a quick message. "Ethan, breaking news. Your girl just made the entire hospital talk." Upstairs, James Miller, or rather Ethan Cole, read the message and smiled faintly. Looking out the window, sunlight glinting in his deep eyes, he murmured, "She doesn't need anyone to defend her. She makes the world pay attention all on her own." That afternoon, while Emily was cleaning the administrative hall, Monica and her 2 nurses walked by. "Oh, our hero," Monica said mockingly. Emily paused, then replied calmly, "I only did what needed to be done." "Needed?" Monica laughed coldly. "If something had gone wrong, you'd be sued." "You think you're a doctor now?" Sophie spoke up timidly. "But she really did save them." "Be quiet," Monica snapped. "Saving lives doesn't mean breaking rules." Emily met her eyes, unflinching. "And what rule allows you to stand by while someone suffers?" The corridor fell silent. Monica's face flushed red. She turned away, muttering bitterly, "You'll regret this when the owner returns." James, standing at a distance, heard everything. His blood burned with anger, but he stayed silent. Not yet. That night, Henry, Emily, and James sat together in the hospital's back courtyard under the dim glow of the outdoor lights. "You've really got them rattled, Emily," Henry chuckled. "I've never seen nurses jealous of a janitor before." Emily gave a small, tired smile. "I don't want fame. I just want peace." James looked at her and said quietly, "Sometimes people who do the right thing are never left in peace." Henry added, "You did what others were too afraid to do. They hate you because you remind them of their own cowardice." Emily said nothing, though inside she felt a mix of pride and fear. She wasn't afraid of being disliked, only of losing her job because of it. James caught the worry in her eyes. His voice was calm, reassuring. "Don't worry. Justice doesn't always come early, but it always comes." She smiled softly. "That sounds philosophical." "Not philosophy," he said. "Experience." The next morning, a new notice appeared on the board at the hospital entrance, and murmurs spread instantly. Announcement: the owner of Cole Memorial Hospital, Mr. Ethan Cole, has returned to the United States and will be visiting the hospital soon. Excited whispers filled the corridors. Monica smiled triumphantly. Finally. He'll see what kind of chaos has been happening here. Sophie asked quietly, "What are you going to tell him?" "That a cleaner has been playing doctor," Monica said, her voice sharp. "I'll show him who really deserves to stay." Meanwhile, in the cleaning department, Henry showed the same notice to James and Emily. "Looks like the boss is coming," he said. "People are panicking already." James nodded calmly. "Truth always makes people uneasy." Emily gripped the handle of her mop tightly, her voice soft but firm. "I just hope he's a man with a heart. Because someone who holds power but can't see people is no better than a statue." James lowered his head slightly. His chest tightened. She was talking about him without knowing it. Yet, instead of feeling hurt, he felt strangely warm. Because for the first time, someone had spoken the kind of truth he wanted to be worthy of. That night, James couldn't sleep. He sat alone in his small apartment, the light casting half his face in shadow. Tomorrow, when Chairman Ethan Cole returned to the hospital, every mask would fall. And he would have to decide, should he reveal the truth or remain hidden a little longer, just to see her smile for one more day? Outside, the night wind rustled through the trees, carrying the echo of his own thoughts. Light only shines brightest when it's tested by darkness. And he knew dawn was coming, along with a truth no one could escape. The next morning, tension hung over Cole Memorial Hospital like a stretched wire. From the reception desk to the examination rooms, everyone straightened their uniforms, touched up their makeup, and polished their name tags. The news that Mr. Ethan Cole will be visiting today had turned the entire staff into carefully manufactured versions of perfection. Monica stepped out of the locker room, her uniform perfectly pressed, her hair neatly tied in a bun, the faint scent of perfume following her. "Listen," she told Sophie and Nina, "if you see him, smile. And don't mention the whole cleaner delivering a baby thing. I'll handle that myself." In a quiet corner near the janitor's area, James, still in his worn uniform, wiped each tile slowly and methodically. Henry passed by, whispering softly, "It's time, isn't it?" James smiled faintly. "Yes?" They're about to meet the man they thought only existed in rumors. At 10 o'clock sharp, a sleek black SUV pulled up in front of the hospital. As the door opened, the entire lobby seemed to hold its breath. A tall man stepped out, wearing a gray suit and moving with calm confidence. Light glinted off the silver watch on his wrist. Monica gasped under her breath. "Oh my God, it's him!" But when the man removed his sunglasses and that composed smile appeared, the crowd froze in disbelief. Sophie stammered, "No way, that's James." Henry stood motionless, while Emily dropped the mop she was holding. The man walked slowly to the center of the lobby, his deep voice steady and clear. "Good morning. I'm Ethan Cole, owner of Cole Memorial Hospital." The air seemed to shatter with shock. Monica's face went pale as she stepped back. Emily stood frozen, unable to believe what she was seeing. "James, not James," he said softly, his gaze gentle. "My real name is Ethan." She shook her head as tears welled up. "So everything was a lie? Everything you said, everything you did?" Ethan took a step closer, his voice trembling. "No, Emily! My feelings were real. I hid my name, not my heart." She stepped back, her voice breaking. "You turned me into a joke. I trusted you believed in a man who never really existed." Ethan tried to speak, but Emily turned away and walked quickly out of the lobby. The only sound left was the soft click of the glass doors closing behind her. The entire hospital fell silent. Monica stood against the wall, her face drained of color. Henry approached Ethan, his voice low and heavy. "I don't even know what to call you now, James or Ethan, but I know one thing. You found someone real." Ethan stared at the door where Emily had just disappeared, his heart sinking. He had everything: power, wealth, reputation. Yet at that moment he felt as if he had lost the one thing that truly mattered. He spoke quietly, almost to himself. Maybe to find real love, I had to lose the trust of the only person who ever truly deserved it. And as the midday light poured into the grand hall, Ethan Cole, the man who once believed he had everything, realized he had returned to where it all began, standing alone, with nothing but a bare and broken heart. 2 days after the revelation, Cole Memorial Hospital felt like it had fallen into silence. The fake smiles were gone. No one flaunted their titles or positions anymore. Everyone walked quietly, avoiding the gaze of the real owner, the man they had treated just days ago as an ordinary janitor. That morning, all staff members were called into the main hall. The air was thick and heavy. Monica, Sophie, and Nina sat in silence, pale and trembling. Henry stood among the crowd, while the empty seat where Emily should have been, she had not returned since the day she left, felt like a wound in the heart of the hospital. The door opened. Ethan Cole walked in, not wearing an expensive suit, but a simple white shirt. His eyes were calm, yet deep like the surface of a lake before a storm. "When I built this hospital," he began, his voice steady and clear, "I didn't want it to be just a place where bodies are healed. I wanted it to be a place where people treat each other with kindness. But what I've seen is the opposite." He looked around the room. "I've seen people forget their oath to heal, forget that arrogance can destroy compassion. A child almost died because someone couldn't afford to pay." A few nurses began to cry. Monica bowed her head, tears streaming down her cheeks. Ethan's tone deepened. But even in the darkest moments, I saw light. One person dared to stand up, even when she was just a cleaner. One person reminded me why we began this journey in the first place. His gaze shifted to the empty seat. "She's not here today, but from this moment on, Emily Parker will be the head nurse of Cole Memorial Hospital." Applause erupted through the hall. Henry wept openly, while Monica broke down sobbing. Ethan smiled faintly and continued, "Henry Brooks, you won't be holding a mop anymore. From now on, you'll oversee staff welfare." Henry's voice trembled. "Thank you, Mr. Ethan. You kept your word to see people for who they are, not for what they wear." Later that afternoon, Ethan drove to the small apartment complex on the outskirts of town. When the door opened, Emily stood there, her face tired, but her eyes still bright. "Why are you here?" she asked quietly. "To apologize," he said softly. "I hid who I was, because I was afraid of being loved for my money. But instead, I hurt the one person who loved me for who I truly am." Emily was silent for a moment before sighing. "I'm not angry because you're rich, Ethan. I'm angry because you thought you had to pretend to be poor to find out who was genuine. Love doesn't need to be tested. It just needs to be trusted." He looked at her, his voice rough. "Then, can I still believe that I have a chance?" She took her daughter Grace's hand and placed it gently in his. "This chance isn't yours," she said softly. "It belongs to her. Prove that your heart deserves the trust she'll give you." A few weeks later, Emily returned to the hospital, dressed in a crisp white uniform. Ethan was waiting in the lobby, smiling warmly. "Welcome back, Head Nurse Parker." She smiled back gently. "I didn't come back for the title. I came back because this hospital deserves a new beginning." They looked at each other as the morning light streamed through the glass, reflecting off a new plaque hung proudly in the lobby. It read, "Kindness heals more than medicine." And for the first time, Cole Memorial Hospital truly became a place of healing, not just for patients, but for people and for every heart that once wore a mask. The story of Ethan Cole and Emily Parker came to an end, but its echoes still lingered through the white corridors of Cole Memorial Hospital. A billionaire who had once lost faith in love, and a woman who had been pushed to the edge by life. They met, not in wealth or comfort, but in the cracks of two wounded hearts. Ethan didn't find love at the top of his empire, but when he lowered himself enough to see the courage of an ordinary soul. And Emily, she didn't change the world with power, but with quiet, enduring compassion, a kind of kindness that even the cruelest judgment could not destroy. Now, Cole Memorial Hospital was no longer a cold monument of prestige, but a symbol of fairness and humanity. Every wall, every hallway, every patient's laughter served as a reminder that no one is lesser because of the job they do, only when they forget how to treat others with kindness. Ethan and Emily didn't just save each other from loneliness. They proved that goodness is the one universal language of humankind, one that transcends titles, uniforms, and status. If you've ever been looked down upon, ever been judged for where you started, remember this: light doesn't have to be grand to brighten an entire room. It only needs to be real enough to chase away the darkness within. And somewhere in California, inside a hospital bearing the name Cole Memorial, that light still remains, in the smile of a patient, in the gentle hands of those who care, and in the hearts of two people who discovered the most precious thing of all: true love, unmasked and pure.